their message was generally, we are cautiously optimistic, painting a pretty upbeat picture of Donald Trump's health right now, and strongly suggesting that some people's worst-case scenarios with this event are unlikely to take place. They described Trump as 24 hours without a fever, not requiring oxygen, walking about, even getting on with his work. At one point, they said Trump was feeling so good that he said, "I feel like I could get up and walk out of here now." There was one or two wrinkles there. I think some details still a little evasive and missing, and it was curious, this issue of has the president received oxygen? That question was asked over and over. The answers sometimes felt not quite on target, as if perhaps they were unaware of, was there a moment when he did, and these doctors were not involved perhaps. That was slightly hard to read, but generally the picture for both Trump and especially First Lady Melania Trump was, we're cautiously optimistic. Right now, at least, he's beating this virus. I think with that caveat that at 7 to 10 days for all patients, things can get more difficult. So not necessarily out of the woods yet.
And of course, if the worst were to happen, ultimately President Trump wasn't well enough to go ahead. That's something that lawmakers have planned for, David, and have managed before in the US.
Yes, we have seen situations in the past of presidents falling ill or even being assassinated, of course, and their successors taking over. I think in recent times, both President Ronald Reagan and President George W. Bush, very briefly, just for a few hours while they were in hospital, did transfer the acting presidency to their deputies. In this case, if Trump was to decline seriously, he may well consider invoking the 25th Amendment, transferring power to Vice President Mike Pence. If Trump himself was unable to make that decision, then Pence and the cabinet could do so. That would obviously be an extraordinary thing at any time, perhaps especially with a month to go now to the presidential election. So I think the way the Constitution is set down, some of the steps are very clear. We have seen them enacted before. Others tend to get a bit vague and murky, and I think a lot of people in Washington are keeping fingers crossed we don't get into some of those ambiguities, especially after the year we've seen with plenty of legal and constitutional battles. Mm-hmm. But the message really coming from those doctors at Walter Reed was that perhaps we don't necessarily need to look at those scenarios just yet.
David Smith.